you know it's getting cold and I gotta break this out. So it's the next day, we're back on the transmission. So I checked my notes. I'm trying to double check a few things. These are all the these are all the CRV items. So I'm about to break this case down, get the h22 gear stacks, put it in, so make sure everything fits correctly, and then work on taking out the remainder of the bearing at the bottom. Oh, what I'm gonna do right now is marked everything up CRV, so at least I know a better idea of where everything is coming from, because it's gonna be a few transmissions laid out, so I want to make sure I remember exactly where everything goes. Now I'm just gonna start taking out these pins, so I could just start taking that whole gear stack, that diff out, so I could just play with just the casing, move it over, and then I could just get the other gear stacks, line them up, so this way it'll be a little bit easier and a little bit more organized. These two out the way, I can just lift the whole stack up. That's how you take out the gear stacks. This bearing fits on that. I'm gonna leave that with the prelude stuff. I'm gonna take the diff out, take this bearing out, and that bearing should physically fit into the same location as this. So we're back at it again, just heating up the bell housing so we can get that countershaft bearing out. Yeah, I know I should clean up this dirt, but whatever. The fire is burning it off, so hopefully this comes out fairly quickly, no damage, and we can just move on to test fitting the other bearing to make sure it goes in and we have no problem. Okay, so the bearing dropped out. I'm gonna just hurry and put the other one in. Okay, bearings in. It's not the most pretty way, but it'll work. So now I can start assembling everything else. So there's the prelude countershaft. It's in. Spinning freely, so that should be good. So here's the gear, the main shaft for the h22. I just took off the top gears, so I just want to compare something. As you can see, the area for the pilot bearing for the h22 is bigger than for the CRV. So I guess I'll either have to shave this down to match this diameter, or get a different pilot bearing that has the outer diameter of the casing and the inner diameter of the h22. But that's something that we could do, so I'm not worried about that. Could always get a machine shop to just, you know, grind this down, turn it down to where it's the same measurement as the CRV. So this is the Prelude shaft with a Prelude diff. This is the h22 diff. Seem like they have the same spline count, so they could work. The differential look very similar, so I think they're the same thing. I think they could work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start taking a few measurements to see if in fact they will work. H22 one looks a little bit beefier, to be honest, so I may end up going with that one. But this is just a testing for right now to see what fits into the case the best. So this is just a little comparison of the three diffs. This is a CRV diff, this is the H22, and this is the one from the Prelude. The H22 and the Prelude seem to be the same height. The CRV one is obviously a bit lower. So what I'm gonna do is I have to figure out how to, I guess, grind this down or scallop the bolts to where I could get this gear on and then be able to just bolt them up. So this is the final drive for the CRV. This is the H22 and that's the Prelude. So my main comparison will be the H22s. It seems as if these gears are the same height. Actually no, the H22 one is a little bit taller. So the Prelude one is a little smaller. Height wise, it's about, I'll say, 1/8 of an inch difference. So problem is we have to get this onto the H22 diff. Seeing this is a little bit smaller, it's good because it helps out counteracting the space that's missing between this and this. So let me put everything together and see how everything comes out. So I reinstalled the lower gears. So as you can see, hopefully you can see the spacing is basically the same. For this is the CRV diff right here on the right side, and that's the H22 with the Prelude final drive. So they're very much in the same spacing and the way they stick out of the case. So this should work. So now what I have to do is I have to put the CRV ring gear onto the Prelude hub, onto Prelude diff. This is where it falls down and it's a little bit short, so you have to put a spacer in between to lift it up. Because if I put it over here, if I put it on this surface, it is a lot higher. So I have to put a spacer in between this diff, this ring gear, and this one just to lift it up about 1/4 inch. So what I gotta do is just basically make the measurements to see how tall this is and duplicate it on this diff. So this is the measurement. So it's basically 1, 2, 3 quarter and so 1/16. So it's 3 inches and 3/16. That's the total measurement that I have to get this in order to get the correct spacing. So that's 3 inches and 3/16. So it's 3 and 3/16. And this one is obviously shorter. Hold on, let's see if I can get it. So I have to make a spacer about 2/16. And I think that should take care of it, because we are pretty much close. So what I'm doing is I'm putting spacers in between about the measurement of, I measured it, so between those two black lines, that's the spacing that has spacer that has to be made. So that's about 1/4 inch. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting it on this, and then just putting the spacers, putting the washers on, put the gear on, and if the overall measurement is correct, then I know I just gotta make that spacer. In order to get like a better flat surface, I put 4 sets. These are all the same spacers. I measured everything and they are all the same height overall. So there we have it. The measurement is correct, and it is exactly there where it should be, because that black line at the top, that's the measurement when the CRV diff and everything was assembled. So since the final drive at the bottom is the same, I just use the same measurement going up, And with that quarter inch, so with that measurement, everything should be fine. So I have to get those spacers made, which should be a 1/4 inch thick spacer. Yeah, so that should be the right measurement.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.